Everyone. One of the viewers sent me some questions via email, and so I want to address some of those questions. And this is a little bit different than my normal format, and might be doing this more in the future. Maybe halfway in the trip, maybe a little bit over. So yeah, there's still time to make videos and post different things. But so I'm going to read the questions and my responses and pray that I kind of hit the mark a little bit. So and answer questions. If you have any questions, you can always type them in the comments below the video, and I'll do my best to answer them. So this first question is, one thing I'm curious about is logistics. Even for simple car trips in the US, there are things like route planning, getting lodging, and food, weather, etc. that take quite a bit of time, and I'm sure it's even more in the Middle East or Africa. Do you use Google Maps or some other mapping software? So I use Google Maps to paint the broad strokes, to get the general idea. With any mapping software or GPS or anything, it's going to plan routes within its own parameters. And the different GPSs use different routes. And I still haven't cracked that nut how to synchronize them, but I don't know that I want to. I kind of like knowing that there are different options. But I like to use Google Maps when I'm sitting in a hotel room or in my tent or at home or whatever. And that gives me the pretty good estimate on distance and time, and a general route. And then I can include, if I want to go to a specific site or city, I can include that and move that route around a little bit. Another thing that I like about Google Maps is that it'll give me the latitude and longitude, the coordinates, although it's not easy to get that information. So when I plug routes into when I plug destinations into my motorcycle GPS, addresses, local address formats often get lost in there. So I like to use GPS coordinates, latitude and longitude, because that is easier for the GPS to interpret and understand. So another limitation to Google Maps is that not every country has live traffic updates like the United States does. So although it may say that the estimated time to reach a destination is 5 hours, depending on traffic and road conditions, that can be 8 or more hours. So it's not perfect, nothing is, but it's good for getting a general idea. Like when I was in Zambia and some places in Eastern Africa there, the road conditions were just abysmal and really slowed me down. And the time estimates were not good for Google Maps. And I can route plan on my motorcycle GPS, but it's cumbersome. It's not smooth. So what I find when I'm planning a route is I have things that I want to see. Let me back up. I have a destination I want to end up that night, probably. So I plug that in first, where I'm at to where I want to be. And then that gives me, that puts out this route. You know, we've all seen that blue line or magenta line, whichever your software shows. But then from there, it's like, oh, but I want to go here, I want to see that, blah, blah. And I move that around a little bit. And that says, well, okay, that's going to take you 8 hours. Well, that's too long for me. I don't want to be on the bike that long. I don't want to travel in a car that long. So, and then what are the daylight hours? You know, I don't want to, if I want to spend time sightseeing, how much time am I going to spend with that? So I might adjust my destination depending on other factors like safety and time, on the road. And I have to have fuel stops and rest stops and food stops, things like that. So generally speaking, for every 4 hours on the bike, I add an hour to an hour and a half of rest/break time. That includes fuel stops and stuff like that. So if I'm on the bike for 6 hours, I'm planning on 8 or so with those stops and things. And then, you have to think about what your goal is, what you want to see, how fatigued you want to be or not be when you get there. How much time do you really have to spend? Tim Collins did a video on, and wrote a book on like weekend adventures, these short snippet adventures. I should try to find a clip for that, or a link for that included in the comments. Let me try to do that. But he's got great tips on how to do micro adventures and make the most of your time. But that's kind of what I do. And then when I have those coordinates, GPS coordinates, I plug that into my motorcycle GPS. Okay, next question is, and you've mentioned that your GPS, mentioned your GPS. Is it Google Maps or again something else? So my motorcycle GPS is the Garmin XT, and it's automobile/motorcycle specific GPS unit. And I know I've complained about it a lot, but it's really only as good as the information that is programmed into it. The software updates, the maps that Garmin gets from a particular country or region. And so when I say that the GPS is trying to kill me, I know that the GPS has limits and it's just a machine and it's not really trying to kill me. But yeah, so like in Namibia, for example, they have a fantastic highway system, and not only are the road conditions good, but the routes and that Garmin had for their software were also right on the money. Places in, let me try to think, in Kenya, no, especially the side roads and stuff like that, they're just not accurate. That's all there is to it. And when I was in Tanzania, no, the side roads in the villages and stuff, not accurate. So if you're thinking about that every place is going to be in your GPS like downtown Denver, nope, it's not. And that's been, it's really shown that I'm a very spoiled brat American, that I have that expectation. Traveling by Google, a lot of people travel by Google Maps. I think that has merit. And it depends on the data that is given to the software for them to upload. So, okay, next question. To find lodging, do you use booking.com or ... So this is a great question. And the short answer is yes, I use Booking, but I don't always make a reservation through Booking. I also use iOverlander. It's an app, and it's good overall. It has limitations, and one of the limitations is if you don't have a subscription to iOverlander 2, there's the original and now the second version, and I'm not sure, I haven't had luck accessing the original lately. I think they want you on the iOverlander 2. But without a subscription, it's really difficult to use it. You can't search. You can only get one country at a time. Yeah, it's cumbersome. it has good information, and it's like user driven. So you know that and it tells you when it was last updated. So you know that, you know, a week ago or a year ago, whatever, that user had that experience, and it's not filtered through, you know, the software creator, and so, or the host, right? They're not saying, oh, we have a great campsite, and you get there and it's terrible. It's the users that are writing those reports. So in that regard, I really like it. I just don't want to pay for a subscription. It would probably be helpful if I did. That way I could search more easily and things like that. I don't know, I'm trying to watch my money. Okay, back to Booking.com. Overall, it's good. I have been burned several times with it. One hotel in particular, and this has happened more than once, but this one in particular was in Kenya, and I don't think that hotel exists. I tried contacting them numerous times and never got through, and I ended up losing that money. Booking.com basically told me it was my responsibility, and yeah, I lost the money for that reservation. It was a bummer. Also, there are people on there that have purposely deceptive ads for places. And it seems like Booking does an okay job vetting, but definitely things fall through the cracks. If something sounds too good to be true, I will do multiple different Google searches on that address and property, and I have found that some things are just not real. They are scams, and especially the homestays. So if I find something that is too good to be true, it probably is. If I find a homestay that I really like, I do multiple Google searches and try to find, you know, other confirmations that that is a real address, a real facility, and not a scam. And then the allure of Booking is that it's easy, and you can, if you book more, you get discounts, which is why I was able to stay at that game park in Namibia. I would not have been able to afford that had I not gathered up some points on Booking and had that sweet deal. And then some donations helped out with that a lot too. Another thing that I use Booking for is to get an idea of what's around and how much things cost. And then once I do that, I can go into iOverlander, and sometimes they have like, well, this campground only charges, you know, 100 rands or whatever. And then I'll be like, oh, okay, well, that's a really good deal because the hotels in that area are 1,000 rands. And I can be like, all right, that's a good deal for that that campground. So it's these different moving pieces. There's nothing is smooth or easy, and it's pretty time consuming. And I'm sure there are people who are very adept at finding campsites. Being solo and on a motorcycle in a tent, I have some trepidation with just camping anywhere. Not a lot, but a fair amount of people on iOverlander are in vehicles and have at least a rooftop tent or something, so maybe a little bit more secure. Yeah, so I like to use campgrounds when I'm camping. It feels more secure, and I don't know, maybe I'm being paranoid, but yeah. So it's just back and forth between iOverlander and Booking.com, and then on some of the Facebook groups, like there's a Overlanding Africa group on Facebook. There were Horizons Unlimited on Facebook. they can have some good information, but generally speaking, I use iOverlander and Booking.com back and forth, playing off of one another to try to find the best deal. And if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Let me see my notes here. So the other thing with Booking.com is that I only usually book a night or two, even though I may be planning to stay in a location longer than that. And what I do is I book those first 2 nights or 1 night or whatever, and then I'll say to the owner, look, I would like to stay a couple more nights. Would you charge me less than Booking.com if I paid cash to you directly? And I've been burned on both sides of that. People have said yes, and I have saved money because they pay Booking.com. And so if I pay them cash, then they don't have to pay it. But if I get a lower rate on Booking.com, then I pay them what they think they want. It might actually end up being more. So I've saved money and I've had to pay more money. And I still will do that if I plan to be in a place, let's say for a week. And I'll just book 2 nights or 1 night or whatever, and I'll say, hey, would you be interested in doing a cash deal? And if they say no, then I just go on to Booking.com and I book the rest of the time, if it's available. If they say yes, then potentially I could save money. In the past, I have also spent more money. Booking.com also does not have web campsites that I've seen. Maybe they do, I just haven't seen it. So I don't know how to do all of the things with Booking.com. Okay, next question. How do you figure out the best route? Any tricks? So that's the best route is a relative term, right? That's very subjective. And when I'm on my motorcycle and the roads are safe and all that stuff, I might prefer going on a twisty canyon and seeing some other sites versus if I need to make a flight or something like that and I just need to get there, I want a straight fast highway, right? So the best route is relative. And there it goes back to your goals. What are your goals? Do you want to see backcountry? Do you want to hurry up and get somewhere, like so you don't miss a flight, et cetera, et cetera. If I have time and I want to see scenic areas, I will choose on Google Maps to avoid highways, but I leave on the ferries and the toll roads. Sometimes those toll roads are the most scenic, and sometimes they're just getting you from point A to point B. My motorcycle GPS, that Garmin XT, XT, it has a button you can select for more twisty roads, and it will search out those roads that are more fun for motorcycling. There were some of those in Turkey that were just off the chain, so great. Perfect motorcycle roads. And then some in Kenya and Tanzania that I would not recommend. And the highways in Zambia, some of them were pretty treacherous, pretty rough. So the best route, that's difficult. The Facebook groups, like I said, iOverlander, stuff like that can be helpful when choosing routes. You can ask a question there. And then I met a guy named Carl in Livingston who introduced me to this AI app called Claude, C-L-A-U-D-E. And he had been through part of the route that I wanted to go on. So I was like, ask him all these questions, and I'm sure he got tired of me asking questions. So he's just like, ask Claude. And it works really well. If I just say, road condition between here and, whatever town, it would gather all of the data it could find and say, from what I found, these are the current road conditions. And it's awesome. I loved it. So that's another tool you can use, that AI app. Locals have good information, but I have found a phenomena called African directions that I call African directions, and they're not specific. They're like, you go that way, and then you turn that way. I don't even say left or right. You go down there, and then you turn there, and it's just up the road. Man, I tell you. And even when I was in the UAE, and I was looking for gas, they're like, okay, you go here, and you make the first left, or first right, and then blah, blah, blah. And I'm like repeating it back to him, blah, blah. And I was looking for a gas station at the time. I still never found that gas station. And I asked like 2 different people. So the best route, it's rough. And locals have good information, but you have to be careful on those African directions. And I'm sure that those apply to other places as well. All right, let's see what else we have. Okay. Next question. Any suggestions to make such a trip easier or more fun? And not just for motorcycles, but would such a journey be viable by renting or buying a car? So the car question, absolutely. It's very different. I can't believe how different motorcycle travel is versus car travel. There's almost nothing the same. I prefer the motorcycle. It's in some ways more difficult, but much more enjoyable for me. And I feel so much more engaged in the travel and in the environment. I love traveling by motorcycle. Traveling by a car, to me, is very sterile and very detached. So it's not my favorite. And I have this new chapter where I'm in the car now, and it's a steep learning curve, trying to figure out how to do it. And I don't know, maybe I'm making it more complex than it needs to be, but definitely prefer the motorcycle. When I roll up on a motorcycle, like I have an instant rapport with people. We have something to talk about, and most people want to know about the motorcycle, etc. But when I'm in a car, it's just like I'm any other Mzungu in a car. Like no one cares, and there's no conversation starter, and I don't know. It's just not my favorite. So again, easier and more fun are relative terms, very subjective. The number one thing I think to make things easier is to limit your expectations. I mentioned this earlier, the more expectations I have, the unhappier I am. And that's probably the best advice I can give about that is what's easier and more fun. Again, if you're trying to get to an airport in a hurry, the highway is going to be easiest. Uber might be easiest, although I don't like Uber, but a taxi on some level. But if easier is avoiding people, like I like to do normally, then getting that, finding that secondary road out in the middle of nowhere, that's going to be the most fun, right? I think being in an RV or pulling a camper trailer has a lot of nice things and can make things easier. Cooking, doing dishes, security. Having a tent allows for more flexibility, but it is more labor intensive to set up a tent, tear it down, sleep in a tent, etc. It's not as secure. Somebody shows up in the middle of the night kind of thing, and I don't know, that hardly ever happens. But also, I think something that can make a trip more fun is to have a base camp, and which is kind of what I have here. I've gotten this place for a few nights, and then I can just go do things from here. I love that. That's really nice. And I think you get to know an area a little bit better too than just passing through and getting gas. If you spend a few nights in a place, you know it at least a little bit better. I also think that having some goals and writing those down, or maybe even just making note of them. I want to see this, I want to do this and that and the other thing. It's I think you're more apt to get those things done. I had to leave Namibia early to catch that freighter, to get the motorcycle on there, but I had a long list of things I wanted to do and see in Namibia, and I only did a couple. It's okay. I had mechanical issues and the freighter and so on and so forth. So yeah, maybe I'll get back to Namibia someday. Maybe I won't. But yeah, if I have my goals out there and I make those a priority, I think that can maximize your fun during your trip too. Something else to bear in mind is that most things in the US can be found, reserved, and paid for online. Not the case in other countries. When I've been on the continent of Africa, it's rare to find things that you can reserve online. Through booking.com you can, some parks maybe, but most things you gotta show up. And like some of the websites and stuff, they don't even have the hours of operation, or it's just kind of like, it's difficult to do things online. So be aware. So, you know, you could show up to a place and it's closed, you're not able to do it or whatever, or it's more expensive than you have budgeted. Yeah, just, it's really nice in the US to be able to just basically do most of your planning from your living room. Okay, what else? Blah, 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 yeah. Oh, and like you talk about the base camp thing, I booked a hotel in Istanbul for a long time because there was a lot I wanted to see, and it made it so nice just to have that base camp and then to strike out and do the things I wanted to do. Really made it nice, and I could spend a lot more time doing things rather than traveling all the time. So some other notes that I've taken here, it's quite a bit I want to share. So vaccinations, I went to Alaska on my motorcycle during the tail end of COVID, and Canada required you to fill out an online health assessment form each time you cross the border, and I ended up, through a series of events, crossing that border 3 or 4 times. And so I had to make sure to fill out that health questionnaire each time I crossed the border. Vaccinations and things like that. The biggest thing on my travels is people want to see my yellow fever vaccination. Yeah, so, you know, I have to research what vaccinations or health information different places want. Traveling within the US, obviously that isn't an issue, but I said during the tail end of COVID, Canada absolutely wanted that health questionnaire filled out online prior to crossing the border. What else here? So the State Department website, the US State Department has travel assistance. I don't know the right word to use. You can tell them, I'm going to be in Namibia between these times, and they will send you alerts. Then you are on their record that if something happens, then they know that you're likely in the country and they might look for you. I don't know. I have not found it overly reliable. When I was in Nairobi and they were having those demonstrations where people were killed, and like it was terrifying. It took 3 days for the State Department to post that on and send me the message via email that there were those demonstrations, and I'm like, dude, that was 3 days ago. You know, it was not timely. When the U.S. decided that they really needed to bomb Iraq for whatever, or not Iraq, Iran for whatever reason, stupid. They were up to date on that one. We got the email notification the same day as the bombing. So yeah, I don't know. I don't find them reliable. And I think it's good that, you know, for your loved ones or whatever, if something happened, that the State Department knows you're in a country, but I wouldn't go crazy about it. The Facebook groups, the different travel groups, like I mentioned earlier. So 87% of the responses are just going to be the thumbs up. You're going to have your photo and your question and, you know, what's the best route from here to here, or what should I do there, or whatever. And you'll just get a thumbs up. It's like, okay, that's not helpful. And so that's about 87% of them are just a thumbs up. And then you get the other ones that are like so demeaning, like, oh, if you don't go on this like super extreme 4x4 road that's actually a dry riverbed and you have to wrestle crocodiles and blah blah, then you're just a weenie and you're not doing it right, and you should never travel and blah blah. And so then there's about like a 3% that answer the question in a helpful way. Just kind of have to take the Facebook groups for what they are. Not super helpful. And you know, if you don't have anything nice to say on Facebook, just don't say anything, especially with a travel group. We're not all created equal. I'm not as you know, badass as you are. I'm sorry I don't, you know, ride up the side of Kilimanjaro with my hair on fire. I'm not as cool as you are, sorry. So when you're talking about visas and stuff like that, and like when I mentioned going into Canada, the country's website, great. Always look at that country's website. Peruse that. They have travel, a travel tab usually for foreign travelers. Definitely look at that. Lots of good information on other countries' websites. I would not take medications with me from the U.S. I would get them to whatever country, in whatever country I'm traveling to. I went to the pharmacy in Germany, in Uganda, and in Zambia, and had fantastic experiences. The pharmacists were helpful. I got the medications I wanted at a great price, like super cheap, so much cheaper than the United States, and just really easy. I didn't need a prescription. I got antibiotics and different things, and it was just straightforward and simple. And the U.S. healthcare system is terrible. It's not user-friendly. It's insurance-friendly. So all that to say, get your drugs and medications, and not your drugs, get your medications in other countries. It's going to be cheaper and easier. Malaria prevention, I'm on a prophylactic malaria medication. This is a lot of research. Find out what works best for you. I went to a travel clinic in the US and got my meds. I would probably do that differently and get meds in country. maybe get a few when I get there so that I have time to go find a pharmacy and stuff like that, and I can still be treated during that time. Yeah, so I did a ton of research before I left on this trip, and not all countries are safe for Mzungus. I stand out like a sore thumb in a lot of places. And then just by virtue of the motorcycle, it's a big giant BMW. It's pretty obnoxious, I guess. Yeah, so like the DRC was not conducive to Mzungu travel. People do it, and people are going to respond, oh, it's easy, I never had any problems, blah, blah. Fine, great, good for you. It was more risk than I was willing to take. I wanted to mitigate as much risk as possible. I read a lot of posts, I read a lot about the country, et cetera, to choose my route. And even in the safest countries, you can still run into problems. Praise Jesus, I have not had problems like that. And I've talked about that in the past too. So one of the things that can help your fun level that I got from Tim Collins is to redefine what you call adventure. Like I said, some people think that unless you're traveling on a 250cc motorcycle up the side of Kilimanjaro, carrying only a bivy sack and a granola bar, that you're not really traveling. Whatever, dude, you're amazing, who cares? And some people, as an adventurer, they think that, leaving the hotel for a day is the adventure. You define your adventure, and you define your level of excitement and risk and so on and so forth. And is that being gone for a weekend, a month, a year? That's up to you. But yeah, you do you, okay? When it comes to adventures, don't let people dictate that for you. Again, Tim Collins is great, and he talks a lot about how to do adventure and how to make the most of it. Another recommendation is really good shoes. My shoes are and after walking a long ways, my feet hurt and it's no fun. Excuse me. International credit cards and debit cards. There are several. I've been using a couple that I think are working well for me. We've had several times where I've had to call them and be like, no, I'm actually in this country. Please let these purchases go through. And so it helps to have somebody back in the States that will help you manage things like that. Data storage. I've run way out of data and I've lost photos because of it, so that's a bummer. Oh well. Having a good data storage, and again, if I paid for more cloud storage, then I probably wouldn't have a problem, but I'm adverse to spending money. Having cash on hand. Like in South Africa, I haven't had to use cash. Like most places will take my card. Every place has taken my card. Other places in Africa, East Africa, it was cash only. And when I'm talking about fuels, like I need that fuel, so I need the cash. SIM cards. I used electronic SIM cards sometimes, but I got burned by Airalo twice and lost that money. That was very disappointing. I was very annoyed with that. I tried multiple times to get that money back because I never did end up using those SIM cards, electronic SIM cards. And so I've been using, going to a place and getting a physical SIM card, and that works. It takes time and it's hard to find places sometimes. It's challenging, but at least they work and you have it right there and you know it works before you leave. That's nice too. Hygiene, make sure you take toilet paper and, you know, there's squat latrines too, and the long drops and stuff. So making sure you have toilet paper, maybe some hand sanitizer stuff, and you know, find out if people wear shoes in their home. That's, I don't know, not only hygiene but etiquette too. And then take tools. Make sure your vehicle is in good working order before you leave. Take tools even if you don't know how to use them, because somebody that may roll up to help you may know how to use them, and it's good to have them. And you can ask me anything. I'm happy to answer the best I can and on this format. And you know, things like, how do I stay so handsome while traveling? You can ask that if you want. I mean, I'm not opposed to giving up my beauty secrets. But seriously, I feel like I've had a lot of experiences. I don't know how much I've learned, but I've had a lot of experiences, and I'm happy to share those. Peace and love to you all. Thank you for the questions, and I hope that was somewhat helpful. God bless.